The best way to train when you're over the age of 40, plain and simple, is the way that doesn't hurt. The way that you're not forcing yourself to do exercises that leave you completely crippled the next day or for the whole week. You're doing stuff that in the moment it feels better. Like when you leave the gym, I've said this before and I'll say it again, you should feel better leaving the gym than you do walking in. And that's because you should be doing exercise variations that feel good. Or they're, if they quote unquote hurt, it's a muscle burn. It's not an aching in the joint. It's not a radiating or a shooting pain because you just did something that messed you up. It should be preferably a way that you can progress and make improvements or maintain your mobility. So when I say that, I mean if you're only doing like a boot camp class that limits how much weight you can use because they only got 20 pounders in there, once you're done with like a month or two of that, it's like, yeah, you could go to have fun, but don't make any mistakes thinking you're progressing, because once you can get through the class and once you can use all that weight, you're stuck. And that happens to a lot of people. They go see incredible progress and then plateau. So I obviously favor resistance training. And when I talk about resistance training, I mean doing exercises that involve bands, TRX, dumbbells, kettlebells, anything that, or cable machines, anything that you can progress and add weight or add repetitions, and you can get better and better and better every single time. And the big thing when it comes to the population, like no matter how old you get, it's pretty much anything outside of your 20s is, and even people in their teens and 20s, this applies to. Being aware of your body, like being aware of past injuries, being aware of certain ways, certain types of anatomy. So, for example, the big one when I'm talking about anatomy that comes to mind is like squat form. So, if you're going to try and force yourself into doing a really close stance squat, but you have really, really deep hip sockets, that's not going to go well. And it's probably going to jack up your back or make you compensate, or there's a lot of things that can go wrong. So, it really comes down to knowing your body and knowing what you can handle. And since I brought up the squat, we could go down that rabbit hole of the fact that I personally favor single arm, single leg movements over double arm or double leg movements, because everybody's different. Everybody has different mobility, different ranges of motion, different anatomy, like we just said. And when you do single arm or single leg training, that usually favors the angles that your body wants to be in. So what I mean by angles is, say somebody goes to do a bench press. If you're looking down on them and you are spotting them and you notice one elbow's flaring out, one elbow's tucking in, they're squirming a little bit, that could be just general weakness, yeah, but it also could be different strength levels arm to arm, or it could be that one shoulder is tighter than the other, or it could be that they injured that one shoulder in the past. Now, if you swap the barbell out with dumbbells, I would consider a dumbbell in each hand like single arm training for this specific case, because the wrists are not locked into the path of the barbell. The barbell's there, you kind of just got to work with it. Dumbbells can move around a little bit and you can get comfortable. That is a really good way for anybody to bench press, is dumbbells. Barbells are not necessary. Contrary to what your local bro at the gym says, it's not. Another thing that you could do when it comes to, say you do want to use the barbell. For lower body, I love using it because you could do single leg movements with the barbell. For example, I do a front squat, a front split squat. So I'll have the bar across my chest, holding it like I'm going to do a regular front squat, but I'll put one foot back and tap the knee down like a lunge and then stand. That's one way that you could use it, and use one leg at a time. So for a lot of people, this could result in getting a much better range of motion because you're now using one foot instead of both feet. So that one hip, maybe it's a little tighter than the other. That's fine. Tap your knee, stand it up. And then on the other side, maybe it's a little bit tighter than the one side. That's fine. You may still be able to hit the ground with your knee, Or you could throw a pad underneath or something like that and just use the pad and then work your way down that way. Instead of loading a heavier barbell onto your back, letting your hips kind of dictate where you're going, you might shift to one side, one knee might buckle, and it's just like, why deal with all of that? I'm not saying it's a guarantee for injury, but it's like it's not exactly great looking, and you're probably not going to get the best results possible. Pick a variation that you can get a lot of range of motion with, that you can do it comfortably. Screw the weight on the bar. If the goal is to just lift more, 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 eventually you're going to hit that point where your body fights back and says, "Screw you, buddy. I give up." And then that's where injuries happen, or you overtrain or whatever. There's a lot of stuff that can go wrong. So, for that reason, I favor single leg training. However, most people, when they start their fitness journey, might not be ready for single leg training or single arm training. I'll just keep it to single leg because single arm training is fine. Because most people want to just start with push ups because they're like, body weight's great, right? It's like that's ground zero. That's where you start. No, you start with a dumbbell and pressing it from the ground. So 10, 15 pounds in your arm, pressing up and down is going to be a lot easier than trying to do your first push up. So in that case, single arm training, great. Single leg training, on the other hand, not so easy. So in that case, it would make more sense to do goblet squats, RDLs, stuff like that before progressing into single leg movements. Because even though it might not be pretty, it might say you have a very glaring asymmetry. In the short term, to get your legs strong enough to get to that point, it would be okay to do that. It would be okay to goblet squat until your legs are strong enough to handle, say, a split squat or a single leg squat to a bench. And it would make sense to do regular RDLs before you did a kickstand RDL or a single leg RDL, whatever variation you want to choose. So when you're first starting out, if this is the beginning of your fitness journey, start with a goblet squat, RDLs. If you're going to be doing stuff for your arms, do single arm presses, single arm rows, and build up from there, as that can set a solid foundation and allow you to make tons of progress down the road.